get the roast on.
Are we live?
So, are we live? Oh, whoops.
Oh shit!
Hey,
wait, hold up.
Hey.
I'm like not live. Wait. Okay, now I'm live. We can go. Now we're live. We didn't even realize this went. What up, world?
This whole time, Daddy was like, "What you thought I was doing? I'm working here. I'm trying to get you live."
We're just chilling. We're just doing
this is a super sloppy start. My apologies.
Oh, are we on live?
We're live.
We're live. All right, salutations, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Perspectives Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Liddy Bro Flacko. To my side here is it this side or this side? I don't know.
It's both sides. It's
both sides. Both sides. Is my lovely fellow host. I don't like using co-host because co-host makes it seem like I'm the host and you're a co-host, and it's just like no. But then when you're co-host and when you both host, it's co-host. So it's just like
because like co-parenting would be like the parents working together, so it would be like equal stature. I'm like with that. Co-host is equals. They're equals to me.
Yeah, but then there's like lots of shows that are like there's one person who has host under their name, and then the other person has co-host. It's just like, why is he not also a host? Why is there only one person that gets to be the host? Anyway, my fellow host, Holden Stefan Roy. Holden, say hi, Holden.
Hi, Holden.
Yo, we will never leave that one alone. There's certain like things that I'm like, I'm cool with. I'm like, that corny joke is gonna stay with us the entire like history of forever and shit. Like, we're gonna keep on running that bitch into the ground, and I don't care who doesn't like it. We are here with our illustrious guest, EO Dub veteran, New York City indie scene, muse, manager, project coordinator. I'm about to start giving you like all of like my titles from work and shit, right? Like human resources manager and shit.
I've done it. I'm sure I've done it at some point.
I'm pretty sure that you've done that at some point. You know what I mean? Miss B, I'll leave the AKs up to you. Miss B.
That's your family. Yay, thank you. Hi.
You guys will notice that I call her Shelly, right? Because, well,
fam.
We'll get into all that.
We'll get
right?
there.
Right. So, Shelly, the way that we usually like to start the show is we toot our own horns and we like talk about like our origin story and shit, right? But I think that it's good so that you can get like, you know, like a vibe, a feeling of like, yo, word. Now I understand why you two are together, right? Which is like, we're kind of like the odd couple and shit. Definitely on the dub, right? Like I think like all the hosts.
You look like lovely co-hosts to me.
I think so. I think so. You know? So me and Holden, right? Me and Jess were making Liddy Bros. Me and Jess and Paulie were making Liddy Bros Volume 1. And you know, I told Jess to take off this. I'm gonna make this one super personal because you know everybody, right? So like I told Jess, like I was like, yo, you're not gonna produce on this shit. You're not gonna engineer a single fucking track. Like you can record, like we can record the preliminary sessions together and you could press record button, right? Like, but I don't want you to put any mix on any of these songs. Like I don't want you to do anything other than fucking rap and be a fucking rapper. You know what I'm saying? So like he abided by that. Like he like took like he was like, all right, Hitler, no problem, right? And like he was down, he let me do that, he let me steer the ship. And so like I got us an engineer, my homeboy Merker Miyagi from Merker Studios up in Montreal, Canada, right? I got him to mix down the project. And Merker might as well be a New Yorker, I say, right? Always, because he like works with a lot of people out there, but he doesn't promote anybody's shit, right? Because if you promote one person's shit, then you gotta promote everybody's shit. And then next thing you know, you're promoting some trash that you don't really want to be promoting and you don't want your brand to be associated with. And so like, he just doesn't, you know, that's very New Yorker vibes. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't promote nobody that I work with type shit, you know? And I didn't ask him to promote us, but he ended up promoting our shit. And that got Holden's attention, right? Because Holden's like, hold on, like Merker don't ever share nobody's shit. You know what I'm saying?
And if we're going a little more detailed, it came with one hell of a caption along the lines of, I haven't really partied overnight in New York, but I imagine that this song sounds exactly like what it would if I had. And I'm like, that's a caption. You know, it gets your attention.
Gets your attention. Right. And so Holden, who also was on the side doing interviews and doing album reviews and doing his own thing on the internet, right? He did an album review for the album because it got his attention enough and he liked what he heard, right? Or he liked it enough to review it, right? And so I hate putting words in people's mouths. It makes it sound so flowery. Like, Holden thinks that I'm the greatest rapper on earth. Like, yo, you gotta relax, my guy. Did he even really love it? Like, I don't know. How much did he really play it? Who cares? It doesn't matter. He reviewed the album, right? And so, like, he reviewed the album, and then I'm such a thirst bucket, right? I'm immediately like, hey, we should do an interview together. You know what I mean? And so Holden was like, we should. I was gonna ask you that. And I was like, say no more, let's do it. And sis, after I did that interview with him, yo, no lie, I felt like I went to therapy. I was like, yo, why have I done all these interviews?
Should I go get tissues?
Right? Like, I'm like, why is that I've lived all these years doing this shit professionally, right? Like doing this shit for real, interview after interview, it's like the same fucking question. You know what I mean? Like if they know me from battle rap, then it's all fucking battle rap related. If it's not and it's just indie hip hop, it's like, hey, would you ever do Love and Hip Hop? Or when did you fall in love with hip hop and shit like that? You know what I mean? That's just like, oh my God, shoot me in the fucking head. There's the same shit over and over. And like, I was like, yo, I finally talked about my life. And I was like, yo, this kid is fucking dope. I was like, we should do something like typical New Yorker, right? I'm just like, yo, I got to put all my friends onto this shit. You know what I mean? There's some dope shit I just came up on. They put all my friends onto this shit. So I was like, we should do a show together. I'll bring friends to the table. We'll talk to them together. But like, you'll really like handle majority of the interview. You know what I mean? And it's been a fucking fantastic, wonderful journey. We're like a year into this shit.
50
I believe that you are number 50. Yeah. You are episode
It is number 50.
Nice.
2 years. Danny is reminding me that technically speaking, now that we're in the second year, it doesn't matter if we make. I'm the type of person that I wait till the second anniversary to say 2 years.
Yeah, me too. I would wait till the second anniversary, but
once you're past
we're in
the
year
first anniversary,
2.
You're in year 2, and it's your second year. So
that's
Danny's
fair.
Right. Also, Danny's always right. You know what
that's
I mean?
A perspective.
Like, know that shit. You know what I'm saying? There's certain people on this earth that I'm gonna always be like, you know what? I don't really care if she's right or wrong. She's probably right. So I'm just going to go with it. You know what I'm saying? So 2 years now that we've been doing this, your episode number 50, fucking dopeness, right? Here we are. We've enjoyed the journey. You know what I mean? Holden has his questions that he likes to open up with, but I like to always like cut that off, right? Like the typical New Yorker cutter offer that I am. And be like, yo, why don't you tell, these are specific, follow my instructions now, all right? Because not everybody follows my instructions on this. Just give the people your name, your aliases, where you are from, and where your parents are from.
All right, I'll follow directions. My government is Michelle Barrientos. In 2000, I started being called Miss B because an artist by the name of Oddity, I was working with him and he told me that my last name was too long. So he just started calling me Miss B. And it worked out because I was engaged to do some sub promote for somebody. And my boy was like, yo, should I put your whole name on this flyer? I was like, absolutely not. Do not do that. And I was with Odd and he was like, yo, Miss B, put down Miss B. And I was like, fuck it, let me do it. And obviously, 22 years later, it still remains the same. And then, everybody at the Dub knows me as Shelly because of Vice and Ox.
We'll get to that. Don't spoil yet.
So that there's that's the two names that I'm known by.
And then you're from
Manhattan, born and raised. And
what
my
part?
mother's
if you don't mind telling the people.
Midtown East Side.
Midtown East Side,
Mhm.
gangster shit. If
Yeah.
people were to know New York City well, they're like, you come from money, girl.
I come from a mother that worked her ass off and was never home so that I could live in Midtown
Word.
East Side, you know.
Yeah, nah, it's
Um,
lit.
she's
It's all
from
the way up.
Bolivia. She's from La
She's
Paz,
Bolivian.
Bolivia.
Okay.
Yes. She came here in 66 and my dad is from Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Brownsville, Brooklyn. His whole life? And
Yeah.
his parents before him?
He's second generation American. I don't know where his dad is from. His mom's side of the family I think is either Polish or Russian. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
My parents got divorced when I was 5 or 6. And I knew that side of the family, but not, I was raised by my mom and my uncle. So,
Word.
everything
So you know
culturally.
that what you tell people, like as far as like when they ask you where you like what your
I
race
just
is.
say, I usually keep it as Bolivian or South American just because that's
Word.
the culture that I was, in
Raised
my
in.
home. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Word.
I only found out about the Polish part literally, I think like a month ago. I did one of those, I put in my father's name in one of these like websites and I found the information they tell you you'll find. I never believed it. And I was like, shit, I'm Polish. I was like, I had no fucking idea.
You had no idea. So, you're like now you're thinking to yourself like, what do I have to start doing with Polish people? What am I celebrating here? What are we doing? What am I cooking? What am I learning how to make?
Yeah. So that's me.
Also, by the way, very cute. All the people who are not rappers, right? So Olivier, you guys are wild cute when you guys talk about like what people know you as, like, because you guys go about it in this like I don't know why or how I ended up with like a name that like people call me, and it's just like it's the scene that you're in. We give aliases to everybody. Everybody's got a rapper name, like. Even if you're not a rapper, you're a fucking graphic designer, you're a video guy. Like everybody gets a fucking name. Like you're never like
yeah. It's true though. Or if it's not even your like, because even if you take graphic design, it's just the government name, and there's the weird name you picked for your business that's like 987 Graphic Productions, and that's also your alias in the same way.
Yeah.
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 All right, Holden. Get us.
Yeah,
get
we
us
got
off
we
the
got
rocket,
the opening question. It's a little bit of a story. I'm gonna run through it, and when it lands, you can start talking about it. Running your side of it. But keep in mind when you do that, when you feel the need to say something like "Nah, I mean," nah, we don't know what you mean. We are not all from New York, and none of this is inherent to us. That means you're going into some New York shit. We don't know what you mean.
And nobody else knows outside of New York.
It's the facts of it. But with that, it all starts with my girlfriend, and she's washing the dishes one time, and she got her phone open, and she's playing that Black Eyed Peas song. The I got a feeling, ooh. She's vibing, she's dancing, she's doing her thing. And I had this realization. I'm like, when in the fuck did this song become chores music? Right? Like, if you take this song, you run it back like 10, 11 years, it's going to be some middle of the night vibes. Everybody's partying, celebrating, having a great time. You run that song up to the present day. The song doesn't change at all because it's a song, but we as people evolve over the years, and the relationship and the context upon which we play this song has changed to a point where we put it on when we're doing some boring shit like working out or, doing some chores or whatever, and we want to run it back in our minds to the happy days of when we were having fun back then. And I was like, that's a wild thought. And I started thinking about the young ones, the 20-year-olds clubbing, doing their thing, and they have no idea that this is the soundtrack to their future chores music, or that when I come up on their music, like, I'd be washing the dishes to Pop Smoke now. It's just kind of how it goes in life. And that all matters because, like Flacko was saying a bit before, if you think about a lot of the musical journeys of artists and the interviews and the way people talk about it, it seems like everybody starts their shit at like 12 years old. You know, like I'm like 11 and I discovered this at this time, or I started writing rhymes when I'm 10 years old. And it's almost like nothing in life ever happened before that. But I'm like, when it comes to music, it's impossible that nothing happened before that. Like, there's a good chance you come out in the hospital, there'd be like some song playing in the room. Little baby Miss B is absorbing those energies. You might not remember that. Fair enough. But like, I know that when I'm like 5 years old up in Montreal, basically we're in the apartment and my dad's got these gray boxes all over, the preamp, the amp, the tape deck, the radio, all the things with the little wires going around the room, giving us that ghetto surround sound system. And it was nice. He would play his Led Zeppelin tapes and things like that throughout the daytime. At the nighttime, the club music would be playing live over the radios. My mom, she was more into discos and musicals, and there was the Disney musics and all these different vibes and sounds and all this shit that was around me that I had no control over, that highly influenced my whole life when it came to music. So I was hoping, Miss B, you could run us back to the youngest Miss B you could remember being and tell us what it sounded like to be you before you had any control over the music.
Wow. You know, I'll say that I grew up, I mean, music is probably the biggest memory I have of my childhood and starting very young. And honestly, I was in control of the music in my house from a very young age. You know, I had the sound system in my bedroom was like a quadraphonic sound with the tape deck, the record player, the receiver. And it was because, you know, my mom didn't speak to me in English because she didn't want me to have an accent. And she just figured, you know, I'd learn English because I'm American, I go to school. So it was important for her to just speak to me in Spanish. And so she bought me these bedtime stories that, like, you know, the Cinderella, Snow White, the Three Little Pigs, whatever. They came with a cassette so that you played the cassette and she would sit next to me and it would make a little whistle and you knew when to change, to flip the page. So because I had this enormous sound system in my room, you know, I had a collection of my mom's vinyl and my uncle's vinyl in my room. I was just always listening to music. So I guess, you know, I was exposed to several different kinds of music. There was always rock, disco, Latin music. My as a little girl, I remember when I would have what's it called? An allowance. There's a Crazy Eddie's up the block from my house. Crazy Eddie's was a
Crazy Eddie's?
Crazy Eddie's was there used to be music stores out in the streets before the internet. So Crazy Eddie's was a music store where you bought records and cassette singles.
Like Tower Records, or,
you know, but Crazy Eddie's was like the beginning of that.
Everything.
So I used to.
He was before the Wiz, even, right? Like
oh my God! Before Coconuts, before HMV, all that.
Yeah. Word.
And they sold like electronics too, but you know, the music, it was like my playground. You know, if you gave me $5, I didn't want to go to Toys R Us. I wanted to go to Crazy Eddie's. So that's hilarious. Know, that was always big, you know, music.
So from little.
So you just
very much
like you're just like a tiny one out there getting your allowance, copying records and tapes and stuff, building out your collection.
Yeah, like very, very.
And did you have aspirations of singing or getting involved in music in some way, or was it more from like a fan perspective?
I started dancing when I was 5. I went to a professional children's school, Frank Hatchett, Broadway Dance Center. Frank passed away, but it's a well-known dance school here in New York. And what happened is that as a little girl, I was about 4 years old, and my mom noticed that I had an intern when I walked. And we went to a doctor and they told her that I would need surgery on my hips to make my feet straight. And she was like, bullshit, we're putting her in ballet. And she took me to the best, dance school. And I literally started dancing at 5 years old, ballet. And now I don't walk like this anymore. But I started dancing ballet, tap, jazz. at very young. I danced until I was 13. So again, that also exposed me to tons of different music. I went to Broadway shows all the time. You know, live music
Which
was
Broadway shows?
oh my,
Like which
all of
are
them.
your some that you like? Which do you like remember as being the coolest ones? Let's like
Cats,
make them more specific.
Cats. And I know like to Broadway people, that's like the grossest one. But I mean, I think my mom took me to a million matinees because you could go right before the show and get like a $20 ticket. But, I'm looking at Soza's comments. Anyway, yeah. There was one Starlight Express, and it was a Broadway show where all the characters were wearing rollerblades. So they were like roller skating, rollerblading on stage, and there were these ramps into the audience. I mean, out of it shit. I wasn't into plays. I didn't have the attention span. Later on, I tried acting, but you know, I just loved to dance and I loved music. So that was always in my environment. And concerts
So you
too.
went to dancing school and you hit Broadway as you're a little one. That's like your childhood is going to dancing school and going to Broadway.
I mean,
shit.
she wasn't far from like her area that she said she was born into, Midtown East Side, is like a stone's throw. Like it's the
I was not
neighboring
far from Times
it's
Square.
the neighboring neighborhood is
Right.
Times Square and Broadway. So like it makes like real good sense that like, you know, if that was her, you know,
so like
hobby,
I totally
that
like
she'd end
get
up
that
there.
geographically it makes sense, but like if you're not from New York or something, like yo, it's just a wild thought to think that Broadway is your movie theater the way I would go to the movie theater, but it's just
Yeah.
It
legitimately.
was.
And I saw, and that's like, I mean, I
That's
don't
a
even know
whole
how much
world.
I'd really want to go to musicals that much. Like I looked at all the stuff on Broadway recently, and there was like a one or two that I was like, okay, maybe, but like just the
Oh, so you're like,
idea of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
Bonnie's
I'm
more into
super,
Broadway stuff,
I'm super
and like
like,
but she like, oh my gosh, she would have loved that. Like she so loves
she would have loved it,
musicals, and
right? Bonnie, right.
like
She's more cultured.
absolutely. And there's so many people I know that like just, but for
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
it's like, nah,
Facts.
that's just like growing up. That's just like regular shit. Like that's a
My mom,
wild
I mean,
thought.
I used to be taken, like my uncle took me to concerts at Radio City at like the spur of the moment. You know, my
That's so
mom told
dope.
me that I went to
What?
I went to see some concert my mom took me to, and I had an apple in my hand and I stood on the chair because I got so excited and dropped my apple. And she could hear the apple like rolling down the whole theater, like drum, 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 drum. She had to grab me down, but I would get so excited. Like I loved seeing music live. That was my
That's
thing.
dope.
That was my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing to have. So
That's
your
amazing.
whole
Yeah,
like
no,
thing,
it's also very different than all of our guests, right? Like
all super
we do,
different. Like
they're all that we have a wide ranging, you know, sets of like stories, right? Like not everybody's the same story, but there are when it comes to like the New Yorkers and
no,
people that are
I'm
from
gonna
our
say
era
like
that kind of
even
like the stories
bigger than
blend
that.
together. You know what I mean? It's the same type of thing. Like nobody
Yo, but
ever
it's
brought up
even
like, yo, I was in fucking plays and
nobody.
fucking,
I be
you
talking
know?
to like all kinds of people, rappers, beat makers, da-da-das, whatever. But you're like an event curator slash booker. Nobody knows the history of event curators. Maybe it's just y'all had super different. No, I mean it like from my perspective, but in general, it's not like people be wildly documenting fucking
Yo,
event
no, you're right.
curator
Let me tell
journeys.
you something. Let me tell you something. I'm really angry that New York City's club history isn't more well documented, right? Like there's this whole like Limelight, Palladium, and the Tunnel should have like a museum like somewhere, and like people can understand maybe how it looked and what was in there, and like the amount of like work that went into all that and the people behind it. And so like, yeah, he's like, it sounds funny, right? Like
Like it
nobody
does,
knows the
but like
history of like event curators, but it's
But like
true.
maybe
Nobody
it's
does know
like
this shit, and this shit is
maybe
important.
like
Like this
if we
is
went down event curator land, it would all be similar shit. Like we would find out that event curators are people that went to a shit ton of events when they were young, rather than being
young.
the performers
They
when they were young. You know, like
all the event curators in New York City are like, oh man, fuck. Everybody comes with like the play story, and it's like after like the 10th interview, we're like, all right, we've heard enough about the fucking plays already. Jesus Christ, everybody in this world just fucking grows up going to plays.
no, but that's super cool. Like, and I
No,
honestly
but you're
just
our
talking.
first, so we're all excited.
And like for me, it's an exciting idea, right? Because like I've dabbled with event curation. It's miserable. So the fact that you enjoy doing it is like, wow,
Think
you
you're
know
jumping.
thing.
Think you might be jumping to
You
conclusions
understand
and
this.
shit.
No, I love
Well,
it.
like
Oh,
I
you
just,
okay?
I
So you do love it.
nobody does
love-
anything for 23 years that they don't love. That's my theory.
Facts. Also,
But yeah, so with that, you're a little one and you're cruising to Broadways and all of that. Do you have and you're dancing? Do you have other hobbies or things that a little one version of you is up to?
oh God, no. Dance was my life. I took music classes. Like I took piano for years. Um, I was very music centric, like I grew
what
up
kind
growing
of
up in New York City. There were so many things like ice skating and like gymnastics and after school this and that. But for me, I didn't like being around other kids. I thought they were immature. And you couldn't tell that now because I'm a child. Like now I'm a child. But as a kid, I was like super serious and like into my fucking dance and like, oh, like it was everything.
what kind of dance?
Ballet, tap, jazz. I was auditioning for videos and like I wanted to be a professional. Like I wanted to work.
That's dope.
So
You and my wife have that in common.
yeah,
She
I
also
just
was
wanted to work.
tap ballet, and she would do like her best friend was a little Puerto Rican chick, so she was in a like salsa troupe and shit. You know what I mean? And so she would do that too. And
Yeah.
of course, you're growing up in New York in the 80s and 90s, so it's like, how do you not do hip hop dance too? You know what I mean? So it's just like it's a lot of, but the fact that you did the classic, you know what I mean? Ballet, and that must have been rough on your toes, huh?
It was rough on my body. Like I like
That's what I
didn't
hear.
eat for a million years. Like I would eat a green pepper for lunch,
That's
and
what I
that
heard.
definitely was part of the reason why I stopped. Once they got to the point where they wanted to put me on toe, I knew girls that were on point, and like you destroy your body. They're athletes. Like when you get to that level of dance, you're just a pure athlete. There's no difference. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't like being on stage. I was very shy. My brother will still make fun of like all these shows that he came to see me in. And he said I was always looking down. So I had to figure out another route to fulfill everything I needed.
Yeah, that's telltale sign of somebody scared of the stage is them looking down.
Yo, I couldn't, like, I just couldn't handle it. I hated it, but
Right.
whatever.
I see that's a huge difference too between a lot of the people. Everybody seems to love the stage that we talk to, but
Yeah.
So what happens after you stop doing the dance schools and stuff then?
I went into high school and I went to a Jesuit Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade. I call it a bid. That was 13 years of like hardcore Catholicism and shit. So for high school, I told my mom I wanted to go to LaGuardia High School, which is in New York City. Basically, if you remember the show Fame, it's a artistic, centric high school where you have concentration. So you either go there for dance, for acting, art, or voice. So I wanted to go for dance. And my mother just forbade me. She was like, there's no way you're going to go to this public school. Like, you have to go to Sacred Heart. All the women in my family in Bolivia went to this school. It's an international school. And I was just devastated. I didn't want to do it. And I went and got kicked out after 2 years. And politics. And I ended up going to this very alternative school with like me and one other student in class. Like they basically custom made your learning experience for your strengths, you know? And I ended up graduating early. I graduated from high school a year early and went to work for a graffiti artist.
Wow, that's another unexpected twist on my side. How did that come to be? And what does work
Um,
for a graffiti artist mean?
a friend of mine called me one night and said, look, I want to take you downtown to the village and see what my friend is opening. And we pulled up and there was a store on Houston between Allen and what's the one over? Remember where White Rabbit used to be, Flacko?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, it's on East Houston. And there was about, you know, a 75 square foot store. And there was graffiti, like murals painted on the floor, the ceiling, but they were still getting it together. And there was like, they had to get merch open. And I walked in and told the dude, I was like, there's too much testosterone in here. I was like, you need me to come help you open the store. When are you opening it? And he said, tomorrow at 11 a.m. I was like, okay, I'll be here. And like, I basically hired myself. And it ended up being that was Andre Charles, who goes by Zone, who's a very well-known old school graffiti artist from the Bronx. He has the TCT crew, the city's talent. He's known for this baby Brandon caricature that, you know, used to be all over Manhattan.
I was gonna say, I feel like I've seen, like, you're talking about like the big baby with the pacifier in its mouth and the
What ended up
yeah,
happening is
yeah.
after that store closed, he got another gig up the block and he did the demolition and the reconstruction, the art at Baby Jupiter. And I helped him. And then one day somebody's like, let's go to this open mic. And we walk up and I was like, yo, I did this spot with Andre and it ended up being the first night of end of the week.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I just told Zoo and Nuns that story like a year ago. I like, they had no idea.
So you're working with the graffiti guy,
Serendipitous energy
I-
is through the roof.
and that brought you to the first end of the week on a random, let's go check this thing.
Yeah, after a couple of years. At the first store, you know, I just helped manage and keep the store tight the way he needed, help sell his merch. We also did club vinyl on Fridays, on Saturday nights. So I'd help hire the girls that he body painted and make sure they were comfortable at the club and ready to get on stage half naked and get painted and didn't get scared at the last minute. You know, we did the opening of the Temple of Hip Hop for KRS New Year's '97. And he was commissioned to repaint and design the hip hop room where Stretch Armstrong spun. And in those days, they took such good
Damn,
care
I'm
of
like,
me.
what was that? 97? I'm like, damn, I don't remember there being like anything before that was like, I mean, I don't know though, because I don't know what was happening in the 80s, right? Like I wasn't outside like that in the 80s. I was outside, like all kids are outside, right? But like I wasn't outside like doing grown folks business run, you know what I mean? So I don't know, like, but I'm like, damn, is that like the first time that like a hip hop artist kind of curated a location and did like a kind of like a pop-up shop museum type thing, which is happening a lot, right? Like the trap museum that T.I. is doing is in that vein.
What's interesting is what that night is that, you know, the club would be open from Friday to Sunday morning, I think like almost straight probably. And then the Temple of Hip Hop program would happen Sunday afternoons in this club and be open to like kids, I think. And by kids, I think adolescents, not like little ones.
Yeah.
But I never attended, you know. But that night opened the door to so much. That was the first time I ever met Chris, Angie Martinez, Mad Lion was there. And I was, you know, a kid and in this green room. And I remember Chris was like, yo, what are you doing in here? You're a little girl. And I was like, I'm your biggest fan. And he was like, I'm going to see you down the road one day. And about 3 years later, I ended up seeing him because an artist I was working with was opening for him, and we passed each other, and he recognized me. He completely remembered. He's like, I told you I was going to see you. So I just, I took advantage of the opportunities and the circles that I found myself in. And it's taken me on a dope journey. It's crazy that something I did prior to, EO Dub even existing had to do with EO Dub, looking back to from where I am now, it's like, so half my life has been connected to the dub,
Yeah.
So
It's a deep history.
That's actually like it's cool, and like it all starts because you got connected to the graffiti guy, then he gets all these opportunities, which puts you into the rooms with the right people, which lets you start to build your own relationships, etc. Which is a big time knowledge nugget. Go take advantage of those things when you're in rooms with
Yeah,
people.
people need to adopt some of that attitude that you had. That's like general life. We were literally discussing before we jumped on for this interview with you. Me and Holden were talking about like the lack of maybe will and want that artists tend to have to like get things going for themselves, and how much kind of I mentioned how like artists have like a real like they just swear that somebody's gonna come knocking on their door and be like, "You are so talented. Here's $1 million." Like, which is like that never happens. I don't know what you're waiting for, what you think is gonna happen. You better fucking go out there and hustle and get
yeah,
some shit.
I don't know. I can't imagine what it's like to be, 17 or 18 now with all the technology and this like this constant music being put out. And it doesn't matter what you are. It's like not even music. Like, let's say you want to be on the business side. It's just there's this waterfall of stuff that's just always consistently rolling out, and
Yeah,
I think gives people or younger people a false impression of like it's easy, like everyone's doing
yeah.
it, and in one sense that's great, but on the other
And
hand
it is somewhat true,
there's a
but it's
sense of
also not
paying
true.
dues, yeah, that
Yes,
exists, that now everybody could do it themselves. Like at
yes,
17 I couldn't go and be like, I want to design the hip hop room for Club Vinyl. Like I know what it's like to intern. And when I got internships and just put myself in a place that was like, can you just like buy me lunch? And they would say yes. I wasn't going to be, fetching coffee and stapling papers for very long. Like I was the first
yeah.
one there. I was the last one to leave. I would do anything they needed. And that's what created relationships for me that have lasted
Hmm.
my whole life or half my life since then. I haven't consistently been involved in music. I have my times where I definitely step away. I've done real estate. I've done commercial mortgage brokerage. I've had an accident with my back, but there are still those people that will call me and say, Michelle, I have this going on. Do you have something that where there's synergy that we could work together, and vice versa? It doesn't have to be this consistent presence, always in the spot, always in the
Yep.
room. That's irrelevant. It's about
Yeah.
quality relationships, and it's about what you prove to people that you can offer, and from a genuine place. It has to be a win-win situation.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
everything you said is big
Absolutely.
facts there.
Big facts,
Like,
because most people aren't doing that though. You know what I mean? Like most, so it's like this is good for people to hear, for the people that need to
that's
hear it.
true. I kind of do a little bit understand the little people though, because like it used to be like work at your company for a decade and you get a watch, and it's not really like that no more either. So
No.
there's like a kind of like a lot of these little ones, because I do this interview, and some of the most surprising people I talk to are under the age of 20, because they really have put like 9 years into their craft already. And that's the other side, is when you can start at 12, you can actually pay a lot of dues, so to speak.
Yeah. Pretty
Maybe
early.
not the social
It's
Not
the
the
dues, but
same.
at
spirit.
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
10,000 hours. A lot of these kids, we think they never listened to Biggie, but they bumped Biggie when they were 12 and probably didn't understand it, which is not the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And then but then it's like also where are the people in their 30s and 40s really creating that many lanes for 20-year-olds these days too? Like, it's not like that's why, like, I'm really into this topic of what you're saying, and I'm trying to innovate that kind of stuff in my city, because I'm like, and end of the week actually is doing that right now in Montreal. They have this whole fucking program with the kids, and that's beautiful. But like, that wasn't happening as much, I find, prior to COVID. Like, COVID made a lot of us go, oh, we need to be kinder and more community centric. But like, prior to that, it was kind of vicious to be a little one.
Really?
I would be like, yeah, like, there's not a lot of people giving those opportunities because they're going for university grads with 1 to 3 year experiences, and internships, at least in Quebec, are paid. So nobody's getting a gig. Yeah, there are paid internships. You got to do at
You
least
saw
minimum
my
wage on an
eyes?
intern.
I
Yeah.
was like,
I
yes.
mean, right? Like, I mean, think about it though, right, sis? Like, paid internships is what we had. It's just they usually always started out as a free internship. But again, like you said, right? Like, look, when I was street teaming with Sincere over at Frontline Marketing and Promotions, I spent maybe like 2 weeks as an unpaid intern. You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's the
Like,
thing.
all it
Exactly.
took me was 2 weeks of showing them what I could do for him to be like, all right, yo, I'll break you off some bread. You know what I'm
Because I,
saying?
I
Like,
just, my
That's how you
theory
do
is
it.
is just that if there were more opportunities like that for young people that were not being sniped by 26-year-olds right now, because that's kind of what's happening, or I
yeah,
think you would see more of that. Now they're just kind of left with themselves, and so they're building their own version of it. Like, some of the hottest things I'm seeing in my city are coming from these groups of 18 to 23-year-olds that were like, fuck you old people, we're going to do it ourselves. And it's the most grassroots rebuilding shit I've ever seen, and they're doing it, and it's
yeah,
like,
nah, young
that's
people are
cool.
That's the
innovative.
birth of hip hop. I mean, that's what hip hop
Yeah,
did 50 years ago.
exactly.
So that's not
That's what young
not
people
a
are supposed
new.
to do. Hmm.
So I just
It's the
want to give
same thing
props to the
before
young.
that with,
It's not
yeah,
it's not
absolutely.
all of them, but it's what I'm noticing is happening. I would say your grievances with millennials, and you're fucking right.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for everybody kind of doing things at their own time. You know, it's like you can't expect a dog to act like a cat. So me at 43, I had a different experience at 20 than 20-year-olds do now. So for me to judge how things are being done, it's like you have to have some grace with that.
But
yeah,
what you said about relationships being important is still the biggest key to success. That never
facts.
changed. And that's what they're
Yeah, no.
doing. And it's really
And
cool.
working hard never, you know what I mean? Like, there's no replication for working hard and being ambitious and
Ooh,
doing
and
things
proving
like,
your value, I think you said. Proving
hmm
what you can do. Ooh,
hmm
that's all facts.
yeah,
So let's say, like, you're in 97 with graffiti artist dude running around, and I believe Chris is KRS-One, if I understood
Mhm.
correctly.
Yeah.
And the Temple of something
Hip hop.
is going on Sundays. Yes. And then what happens a bit after that? What's like, then you run into end of the week a couple of years later, and you go to the first end of the week. And I don't know
At
if
the
there's
same
anything in
time, I
between those.
started my own company with a partner called Milk and Honey Entertainment. I was in college, and you know, he and I were friends. And one day we had dinner, and he was like, "What do you want to do?" And it was the first time in my life anybody asked me that. Nobody had ever. People have always been like, "This is what I want to do. How, like, do you want to get down?" And I had no problem with that. You know, I think that I I still hadn't found that strength to think I could create something myself. So here comes along this person, and he asked me. I was like, I just want to do live shows. Like, that's my dream in life. I used to go to Madison Square Garden as a kid to this yearly concert called Salsa Festival, excuse me, that La Mega throws. And
hmm
year after year, I mean, it's a 3-hour concert with maybe 13 to 15 headlining acts. I mean, I saw Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Grupo Nietzsche, the best, Mark
those are
Anthony.
huge. Those are all huge. Like,
Hmm.
before there was a
I know
Mark
who
Anthony,
Mark
before
Anthony
J
is.
Lo, Celia Cruz, right? Before
I mean, the
Mark
greats.
Anthony, Tito Puente, like, before all, like, these are the people that are like they're like making music and like on like a huge global level, you know?
Yeah. So I remember telling my uncle, I was like, I want to know who does this, like who creates this. I want to do concerts at the Garden. So fast forward, I tell my friend this. He's like, okay, let's do it. Let's start a company. I was like, what the? I was like, okay. And we did it. And we started throwing hip hop shows and, parties in the city. And simultaneously in my second semester at NYU, I went looking for the guy that does the concerts, the Salsa Festival. I got an internship at La Mega.
Which
And my
is New
first
York City at the
radio
time. That's
Yeah, that's a
probably
good
like
point.
top 5 New York City radio station.
number one.
Like
It was
like
the number one
the number
Latin
one
radio.
number one Latin radio, but like probably was up there with right like Hot 97 and
Yeah.
WBLS. I don't know what else would have been bigger at the time. Maybe Howard Stern,
Z100.
wherever Howard Stern was on,
Yeah.
whatever Howard Stern was on. Yeah, and then La Mega, like that. It was a top 5, station in New York City at that time.
So I interned there for a day, and I met the producer of that event, and I asked for a job. So I then did the concert that I always wanted to do by the time I was 20. And at the same time, I had my company, and I did those salsa concerts at the Garden for a couple of years. And then I was doing hip hop events on a much smaller scale, not at the Garden, with my partner. And,
So you're the promotion company that sets up the events and books all the people and does all the logistics. You're the logistics people.
yeah, but on both sides. So I was doing that for Ralph Mercado and Felix Cabrera for these Garden concerts. And then on my side, me and my partner, we'd come up with an idea and execute them. We did an event called Black Lily, or no, what's it called? We did the Black Lily that was in Philly, but we brought it to New York, and it was called the Rebirth at Rebar, and it was all female MCs, and dudes could get on at the end. I did events where I gave away free fried chicken wings. Like I've done it. I've tried everything to get people in a room, and some of them work and some of them don't. Some of these events were great. Some of them were, just me with a lot of fried chicken wings at the end of the night.
So we're hearing the chicken wings.
One of the times the chicken wings did not work. She might have pulled it off once and then tried it a second time.
No, we were
back,
sure.
And that second time
I will tell you something. You couldn't tell me and my man Damien that we weren't going to have that room packed with people to come see hip hop artists. We were like, yo,
who doesn't love free chicken wings?
I know, like as a concept, it sounds really fire. Like I want the free chicken
Nobody
wings.
was gluten-free or vegan those days.
You bring it up, I'm immediately like, where are the free chicken wings right now?
Yeah, kind
of. Son, people were not buying it, and that was one of those lessons where it's like, you can't that was, I don't know what the fuck we were thinking. I don't know how that just popped into my head. I haven't thought about that in like 18 years. But, looking back, that's one of those moments that we were like struggling to get people into a room, and we were like, free food. Like, no, like there's no rhyme. There's no reason. Like, it's not like a culinary experience.
It's not organic. Like people would say
all. It was so forced and ridiculous. But there were other things.
You learn without that experience. You don't, like, I constantly tell people that like there's really not a lot like that's great about winning outside of winning itself, right? Like everybody feels good about a win, but there's not really much else that comes with the win that's of value and of use to you. It's when you take the losses in life that you take, like you learn, you become better, you grow, you improve. Like without the losses, there's, like just a fucking typical, like nobody's gonna be entertained by a movie that's all wins. Like, so he started out winning, and then he won in the middle, and then he won in the end. Isn't this great? It's like there's gotta be some like adversity. There's gotta be some struggle, or like people aren't entertained, you know? There's boxers that I used to like love that I don't love because they couldn't take a loss. And like one loss turned them into like glass champions. And like they were like easily defeated after that. And it was just like, well, you weren't the champion I thought you were. You were not a champion at all. It doesn't matter that you had the belt. You weren't made of what a champion is made of. A champion is gonna face adversity, lose, and then come back and win bigger. You know what I mean? Like
the job
the guy that just wins the whole time, and then once he loses, doesn't stop losing because like he's in his head about losing once, is like, you're not a champion. You suck. You're trash. Like, you're horrible. Like, what? Like, you know?
Stronger. I got fired from that job that I did for the production at the Garden. And I remember crying, walking out of that office and really being like, I just did what I wanted to do since I was 12. I was here and I got fucking fired, B. Like, I felt like such a loser. And even though I got fired because I was standing up for myself, basically. And it was a different environment culturally that I was working in. When you're working with like this Latino community and tropical music, it's just, that was a different ballgame.
In what sense?
I was told to
like, in what sense is that a different ballgame?
You know, people have asked me like what it's like to be a woman in hip hop and all this shit. You know what it's like? I'm always like, people are Queen, Earth, Queen, Miss B, like kind. It's like, I don't have any, I could
kind of respectful.
Hi. I could count on one hand and not use these two fingers of times I remember where I was like, I might have to call all my brothers right now. How could you say that? But in the Latin music industry,
you felt disrespected at every corner, huh?
Man, I mean, and it made it worse because, you know, I'm at NYU, I have my own company, and it was the manner in which I was spoken to. Like, my boss would stare at my breasts and ask me for coffee. And he did it not because he couldn't help himself. He was purposely trying to make me feel uncomfortable. When I was offered things and I said no, and just was like, I just want to work here. This is my position. You know, he hired another green-eyed, light-skinned Latina girl that obliged, you know, things that he was offering. And she got some better positions at like certain gigs. You know, like we have a show with 13 artists. I have one artist that I'll be I'm in charge of. She gets all the work. And that might sound whack, but to me, I'm like, give me all the work. I want to do all the work. I want to meet all the people. I want to do all the things.
One of that work.
You know, so but after that, it's like you realize that like people say it all the time and it like flies out of your mouth. But when one door closes, another one opens. And it's so true. And it's like looking at my 20-year-old self, I would be like, you know what, you handled that really well. You know, I think I did the best that I could. I have no regrets. And I learned a lot, you know, I learned how to handle myself in the reality of the world and how to be able to face discomfort in situations where you have to stand up for yourself and be graceful, but at the same time, be poised and strong and stand for what you believe in.
Right. That's really like, that's an interesting answer. That is definitely valid.
Listen, I'm not surprised, right? Like the Latin industry is just right. Like it is what it is, right? Like I can't speak to it, right? Because whether or not I've never worked in that industry. So I can't like, right, say, but I can assume. And like, I'm pretty sure my assumptions are going to be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I'm growing up around these people. I know what they're capable of. God damn it. Like, you know,
in at that time, there were very few women that I was
and back then there's no
in power positions. Like
yes.
I was
and
talking
back
to
then you're not being empowered to speak up for yourself.
No, not at
And
all.
like it
The
was the
woman-
era of the disrespect and the like just the
It's
disrespect.
just different. The woman that was in charge, it was a small office operation. It was 3 of us. And Joanna, she was a lawyer and like ran the company. And I assisted basically. And when she fired me, she was like, Michelle, you know, you have to learn how to humble yourself. And she said, I know that this is a different environment, but if you want to go further in this place, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. And to be told that, it's like, just my job, what I do, my value isn't good enough. I have to kind of like mold myself into something that's so outside the realm of what I find to be acceptable. I'm not going to do it. And that's a scary proposition to kind of stick to at 20 years old, when you think like, oh my God, I made it, I'm here. And then I went back to like doing, you know, little bars somewhere else, but I had my dignity and I was happy and I learned that lesson, you know.
Right. And then you kept doing these bars and other venues and different events.
Yeah, you know, the live shows with hip hop evolved into parties. The early 2000s were the nightlife changed in New York a lot. It went into like bottle service and like, you know, no Tim's at the clubs. Like, so I made
Yeah.
a lot of money in college that way. Like basically,
Which was so weird. That was such a weird era. It happens where like I still have friends that are like, when I tell them like, yo, we're going out, they're like, what's the dress code? And I'm like, what do you mean? What's the
That's
dress code?
PTSD.
There is no dress code, fam. Like, you're an adult, fam. Like, you can come dress however the fuck you want to. Like, there was this era where we were, but I mean, it was also, right? It was the era of the disrespect. So we were being disrespected at places and we allowed for this disrespect. You know what I'm saying? And like, it was just a different era. And it like places could set these like stupid rules. But like nowadays, it's like, you know,
I remember there was a
can't
time
happen.
when I would do parties and first approach a manager or an owner, and we'd have to like, it's an urban professional crowd, you know, like see how they felt about that. What kind of music, everything, you know, like we just wouldn't let them be like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. No hoodies, no, you know, like, and get into that whole shit. If we were like, it's hip hop and reggae. No, fuck it. It's everything. We're playing all types of music.
Yeah.
Now what?
New York had an ugly, like that was from what, like I would say like what, like late 90s to like 2005.
I think so. Maybe earlier,
That's
like 2004. And then it cooled off, you know?
Yeah, nah, that shit's not popping now. I walk into all the fancy restaurants, like however the fuck I want to. Like sometimes, yeah, I'll look, you know, like, yo, you know, did this guy come from work? He couldn't have came from work in that tux. Like, what are you doing in a tux? Like, but then sometimes it's like this, and it's like, yo, my hoodie, but like, what am I wearing? Like, I'm probably wearing more expensive shit in my hoodie and my sneakers than I am in a suit. You know what I'm saying? Or tux. And so like, it's just silly, and it was stupid as fuck that like ever was a thing. Like, and it's crazy that we do have PTSD, and there are people that I know that still hit me with I can tell that they don't go out much when they do that. You know, I'm just like, I guess I'm taking the old man out tonight. You know what I mean? But like, I'm just like, yo, how did that ever happen? How did that ever exist? Like, that was so crazy.
I made a lot of
money. It was it was the era of disrespect. Like, yo, it wasn't even just like women were treated literally like, yeah. It was like, yeah, and you're gonna take it and you're gonna like it. And like women, and there were like women out here like, yeah, girl, you gotta take it. You gotta like it. It's just like, what crazy Twilight Zone are we all living in? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not even like as much as like it sounds like it's so long ago. It's not even that long ago. Like that was my high school. That was my high school
Yeah.
life.
Not long ago at all. Not long ago at all. At all.
Nah.
Like we're
I
just
don't-
turning a corner. And I think that like we're all fooled by the fact that it's like just because like you and your friends are progressive does not mean that the rest of the world is. You know what I mean? Like, don't forget that like most people do not care for changing anything and like are definitely
Nah, I
like,
mean,
nah, like
they like flat out banned hip hop in a bunch of places in Montreal for a minute, like in the 2010s. Like just
yeah.
no hip hop performance. There was some shootings, and that
And
shit
they
just
Yeah, I
got
mean,
the
at like hip
genre.
hop shows.
Like hip hop shows were banned from like there's a giant like part of the city known as the West Island. There weren't a lot of bars in that part of it, but it's like a huge part of the city. And like nah, they just banned it for years. Like no hip hop at all.
You know,
If you
I
were
mean, the community allowed that. Like nobody fought
it
back.
was
I
like at
mean,
a I was at like a police enforcement like level. like if I'm not mistaken, like it was like newspaper articles. You can Google that shit. Like it's like that like easy to find, and it's not across
It's like
everywhere, but like
footloose.
there were like it was like venues
I
were
mean,
banning hip hop, and then
I
I found
mean,
this
that still
video of all
happens
these
in New
rappers
York, right?
protesting and shit, and it was like a real it's sometimes a struggle actually to get the venue spot if they know your hip hop still to this day.
I mean, listen, that is literally still a
Just
story
tell
in
them
New
you're
York
playing
City right now.
everything.
Why? That's why Smack and URL teamed up with Caffeine, and they throw all their events on the West Coast because it's just not a problem. And here in the city, you know what I mean? Like the venues are like really like a hip hop event. Like what? Like you need to give me X amount of the bar up front, and I need like it's crazy. Like the amount of like ask is like, yo, you want us to not throw this event. I see what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but still, it's like I guess better now. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to sell.
I mean,
Now it's really like nobody knows. I don't think anyone knows a lot about what the live scene's gonna look like in Montreal or in a lot of places.
Are you guys
I mean
like
things
up
are
and
changing.
running again?
Yo, like as of like fucking this, like 2 weeks ago, they killed the Vax passport. So yeah, I went to a show last weekend and was jumping with a bunch of 20-year-olds, and then like I'm going to 2 shows this weekend, and so like that there's there's so many events I couldn't go to everything I wanted to go to. Like my homeboy couldn't come with me on Saturday because he was at the next event, and they're all the little ones too. We're not like saying festival shits, which are also coming because Just for Laughs is all of it. It's like
It's opening
whoa,
back up.
it's like
This
COVID
summer's gonna be
ended.
crazy in New York too.
It's it's gonna be late. It's gonna be like I'm not home a lot.
Man, well, let's make money.
That's it. It's the other side is gonna be good.
That sounded. That's like
Let's go live. Let's take this
that
show
sounded. That's a bar, by
No,
the way.
absolutely. That's like, yo, I mean, you say that, but like, I'm already trying to like find somewhere. I mean, I haven't put a lot of effort in yet, but the second I can find a venue person I like, I'm like, yo, like, cause I do a version of this just on my own, and there's a bunch of Montreal rappers and shit. I'm like, let's just fucking do it in bars and then stream it, stream the bar.
Let's
And
do it.
like, I don't know how to do
Yes.
it between us because we in different cities, but like, maybe we get 2 bars and make it. I don't know. We'll be creative with it.
That this is the time. It's like what I noticed during lockdown and COVID is that, I think artists or creatives are used to having to, I don't want to say struggle because words have a lot of power and that makes it seem like too hard, but are used to adversity, right? They're used to having to figure things out. So
Hmm.
with COVID, I saw a lot of my peers and a lot of people that I don't know, but creatives figuring out how to pivot, how to continue doing and creating with what, they're facing at the moment. And I think some people created really dynamic things like the Versus organization with those that started with Raekwon and not Raekwon, RZA and Primo. that first night, that show saved my life that week. And look at what it's become, you know? So I think these are the times where, if you're lucky, there's a spark and new things are created, you know, technologically, creatively, in all ways, you know? So like
Yeah, I think that this is a good
talking
example.
about exactly, you know?
Yeah, and this what's really
Great
cool
example.
about the COVID times, I would say, is a lot of us be working with people that don't live in the same city because frankly, what's the difference between Montreal and New York or Montreal next neighborhood when we're doing it on Zoom anyway? And like, yo, the it forced me to do Zoom interviews, and which made me go to Twitch and shit because I couldn't have anybody in my crib. And yeah, we had like quarantines and lockdowns and curfews. Like we had a curfew that would be like for like 6 months in the first winter. It was like fucking serious up here. So
Yeah.
like we adapted, and I discovered streaming's dope, and you could monetize creating music. I was like, I didn't know, I would never have learned you could monetize music creation if I had not come to the part of like the streaming world and getting ingratiated in that. But this just links up so much with the IRL world, which I don't have a lot of experience in, but there's so many people that do. So now we can, link these two worlds together because I think a lot of us also now just have fans that don't live in our city in ways we never had to deal with before.
Well, I've loved watching how, you know, EO Dub has this international community, but it seems
Mm.
like this is the first time we've been able to step outside that one weekend a year where everybody from the family gets together in a city. And now there's this regular interaction with people like you, Holden, or Carrie on Sunday, who's in Paris. And it gives us an opportunity to commune and to exchange and participate with each other regularly. I think it's wonderful and it's dynamic, and I think that it's brought the dub closer together, and it's widened audiences, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
And actually, speaking of the dub, let's go back to you getting involved with the dub. Like you went to the first show you said ever at the
Mhm.
dub through at the
Yeah.
place that's before the
Baby
pyramid.
Jupiter. Yeah.
And
BYOB.
and so did you like go to the dub again after that? Did it become like more something you
Regularly.
attended?
No,
So
I
you're
was
like,
there every Sunday. I was there every Sunday, like literally every Sunday. And then they went.
And so hold on real quick. So you were there every Sunday, and you were there as just a fan.
Yeah.
Like you were just there to support because you were like, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. I love the energy here. So I'm
Yes.
just coming here to support.
Yes.
And how long did that last before you maybe got involved with helping a particular artist or helping the overall like
I haven't.
brand with the
I've
dub?
never. I've only been working formally with the dub. It'll be a year in June or May.
Well,
Prior to that, like these were my friends, you know, like
mm-hmm.
this was family. It wasn't, I never was like, yo, the dub is fucking awesome, I gotta work with them. It was like my living room at any given Sunday. And then the friendship that I built with Vice and Ox, I helped Vice with his own projects, but
Mm-hmm.
never directly with EO Dub. I never helped them book anything, organize anything. You know, we're
I mean, I could, if you want to, like, I could speak to like the kind of help that you give, right? Because you helped me, you helped us with like Liddy Bros Volume 3, right? So like before we were hanging out and you had decided that you wanted to like bring your Miss B Shelly energy into right my stratosphere and what I was doing, right? Like I didn't have a plan for essentially what this year was gonna be, right? I had what I put out in the last couple of years, which is we met when we were working on volume one. Um uh but volume two was already in the pocket. So that was last year. You know what I mean? So it's like it seems like a long time, but it's like, yo, I planned it, I knew it, you know what I mean? But I didn't know necessarily what I was gonna be doing with volume three until like Shelly got involved and she was like, yo, I love Super Spick. We
Oh,
need to
I love that song.
put this, we need to put this back out. We need to put this whole thing out. And so like I only celebrated it this year, last year that passed, because of that. You know what I'm saying? But
Oh, I didn't know
that
that.
led me on to the doing the like where I was just like, you know what, like I don't want to do Super Spick again, but I definitely needed to be doing like Latin sounds. Like I needed to be fucking with wild Latin sounds that I hadn't been doing. Like for like since the Adventures of Super Spick, I put that shit to the side and I was like, I am not giving people what they want. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna rap over whatever the fuck it is that I want, but it ain't gonna be that. Say that much, you know. And and when you came back, when you came in, right, and you was giving suggestions, I was just like, all that shit is muse shit. That is just like, yo, there's no quantification. There's not even a title for that shit. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just help out of the goodness of your heart, right? Because it's not like, yo, I need to manage it so that like I can get a percent of, you know what I mean, the profits. When it's not even that. It's literally just like, yo, I just think, you know, this is awesome. And what you did with this is awesome. Next thing you know, that's inspiring what's about to come out in a couple, like, maybe like a month or so.
Wait till
Weeks.
June because it's the 65th anniversary of the National Puerto Rican Day Parade. And they've been gone for 2 years. Drop it on that day.
You know what? Might end up holding it for a little while longer. Might end up holding it for a little while longer. But yeah, the point is, this is what you do, right? Like this is a perfect example of
So
like
you
what.
just know things.
I mean, how could I be like, yeah, I just do. I'd feel like an asshole saying
That was just like you knew something and you applied what you knew to the circumstances, and it was like that was like you're in the know. You know shit.
Matter of fact, you know
And
what?
not like
Let me put a
everything.
further punctuation on it, right? To wrap it up even nicer, right? It turned me around. Volume 3 is like all Latin sounds. We're working on volume 4 that's not no Latin sounds. It's like some funky shit and some house shit and some retro shit. But I already decided in my head that I was like, yo, after that, I'm coming back to the Latin sound and I'm not leaving. Like I'm coming back to it. I'm just staying on it. And this is just gonna be my sound because nobody's really like playing this spot. And I was just like, and I really just like enjoyed the way it sounds. There's also a wide ranging like sound, like palette, you know, like it's like a lot of different types of sounds. Like some of it is fucking Brazil funk, which is like we're literally talking about like music that's popping in Brazil type shit. You know what I mean? And like some of it's Latin trap, and then some of it's reggaeton, some of it's like some like regular old boom bap hip hop, but with the fucking dope ass Latin sample in the shit. You know what I'm saying? But the point is that it's like you could do a lot of ranging shit with that type of sound. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so like it's like literally ended up being the path that I'm going to be taking like deliberately for quite some time. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, yo, yeah, I'll guess that she knows some shit, right? Like you, who the fuck knows?
Or it's like at least knowing the right shit to know in the right moments to trigger things.
You know,
Yeah.
I talk on things and I think that things, I see things. So it's like I ended up being with Jess and Flacko the night that they shot a video. And
The Litty Bros Redux video.
and I loved it. And then I was like, let me go listen to all his music. And I did. And when I went back, because I knew a Dutch Vega back in the day, you know what I mean? So like there's this whole new stratosphere of music. And you know, things just come to my head and I see them. So I share my ideas. But for me, it's like that's when I know, like that's my gauge, like that's the way I gauge things. It's like I could see it in my head. You know, when I feel like I could see something in my head, I'm like, I feel like you just feel something. Like some things don't inspire me, and I don't work on those things. Like, I really enjoy being happy. And so I do everything I can to be happy. Like, I'm not somebody that's like grind and hustle every day and team no sleep. No, like I like to
Facts,
sleep.
facts. You said
Fucking
that to
like
me
to
when we first
rest.
met.
And like I work hard, not I work smart, not hard. We're both, but you know what I mean? So I can't
Yeah, I mean, there's
listen to
no
something I
quantification for
enjoy,
experience.
yeah, and be like, the artist is right here. I gotta tell him what I feel, and like it's up to you to take it or not. And I like I'm appreciative and like humbled that like that inspired a direction for you. But you know, it's not stuff that like I always put my 2 cents in with everybody that I come across.
Mm,
You know, there has to be something that like sparks interest, you know, and that I enjoy.
that makes a lot of sense. That sincerity you were talking about before, because it can't be like not good. Um, so I guess but in the 2000s, then you're going around the bar thing. That's kind of like where we were with you, and then you have your company there.
Mhm.
And then in 2019, you're or 20, you're with end of the week or something there. And then what happens kind of in the middle? There seems to be a giant
My God.
patch.
Okay, important. In 2003, I graduated from college and I was working with a DJ prior to that. That's how I met Ox.
Mm.
Everybody thinks that I met Ox at EO Dub, and he and I met independent of it. And then came face to face after like 2 or 3 years at a party that Vice invited both of us to, and like recognized each other and then put it together, and we're like, oh my God, we know each other. And um I started working in commercial mortgage brokerage for a couple of years, and in that time I ended up getting a really bad back injury and was on workers comp. But the evening that I met Ox again through Vice, you know, Vice was like, yo, this is perfect. Like my 2 good friends, like now the 3 of us are together. Shelly, come to Ox's house tomorrow. And like literally from that next day, for like 6 years, the 3 of us
Inseparable.
probably spent like 5 days a week together, minimum. I mean, like we were just always together. Like it was just, we were inseparable. And that created a whole new level, like a different experience with music. No one ever knew that I could write. And I shared that with them, and like Vice tried to like help me like rap and stuff, and like that took forever. I was always scared to, but then I would help him with his music and Ox with his stuff, and it was just always it was a very supportive relationship. It was dynamic, like having those 2 guys by my side always, and laughing and having fun. You know, it was something that like I talked about, like I've taken steps away from music at different points, and that was a time that like just it made things fun again, and it made
Ox
things like,
just said from the comments, he said facts on
yeah,
Facts
Flacko.
like
about tax.
it was just super fun. Like there's a point where you're just like, I could be a fan, like I don't really need to be involved. And during those times it's like the universe reminds you that like, no, like this is where you're supposed to be, and I'm going to send you these people to remind you, because they're going to hold you down and they're going to tell you you're dope, and they're going to tell you when you're not, but they're going to keep it real.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those years it was just the 3 of us, and in the studio with them all the time. And you know, I had spinal surgery, had to get over that. Like I had to spend a lot of time alone and away from people because I had to rehabilitate. And during that time, you kind of like watch the landscape of what's going on. And it's hard to kind of feel inspired when you're not in it, you know? Like I'm not
Yeah.
driven by the business and like that stuff. Like I love art and I love artists.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came back out, I started doing an event with 2 friends of mine, and invited somebody I knew at the time loosely, who was Jerobi from A Tribe Called Quest. He and I built a friendship, And then I helped him launch an event that he called Tribe Taco Tuesdays. And, introduced them to my best friends, Vice and Ox, and then they all became best friends. And like things ended up expanding after that. I took a break again, went to Miami, did work in Miami at Basel. I did I booked some events at the Thompson Hotel. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you think that you have to switch things up. If there's anything I've learned, like for me to stop telling a story right now, there's a time where you just have to like so trust your intuition and know that it's time to move to the right or move to the left. Like there was a point where I was like, I can't be in New York anymore. And I didn't know what it was. And it just didn't feel right. I was like, let me go to Florida. And it was the first time that I'd ever communed and built with sisters, with women. And it gave me a different perspective, and it allowed me to evolve as a woman around other women and in a different city that's a little bit slower and it's healthier. And when I came back, there was kind of this renewed excitement and this new experience to build off of with new opportunities. I think the worst thing to do is to stay in one place and expect to be inspired in a new way. I think that's very hard. I think that it's really important to kind of take chances and get uncomfortable and know when something isn't suiting you in the best way. Because I think that's how people get very soured by whatever industry they're in. They'll get over it, and in reality, that's what they're supposed to do. That's their passion. That's their what they need to do. But because they didn't kind of let it flow, they force it too much. Like, you got to keep on going. Like, nah, sometimes you just have to observe. Sometimes you need to be a fan, a listener. Sometimes you got to try something else so that you could kind of recalibrate. And that's what I spent a lot of my life and like the late 2010s doing, is finding ways of recalibrating myself and listening to myself when I didn't want to be in a certain world. And then it just always brings me back,
So how did you get more involved with the dub, like more formally?
So after Vice passed, I could not do the 24-hour Zoom thing that, family was doing. And I really, for the people that it helped, I think it was great. But for me, I couldn't do it. I'm not naturally gregarious, and I'm also not technologically like in like, I don't do it a lot. So like the Zoom, it was just bizarre to me. And I realized that it was uncomfortable for me to do anything dub related without Jason and without Ox. I found myself, it wasn't only grieving the loss of my friend, but it was the loss of the three of us, and like, how do you wrap your head around that? So knowing that my energy wasn't right, like I would jump on and I'd be like, is somebody laughing at me? Like, and I was like, my energy is so wrong right now. And I know it's me. So let me step back. And like, I just wouldn't jump on these Zooms at all. And one day I saw a flyer and it was ladies' night, Sarah Kana, Angel, and Dama doing the open mic. And I was like, I got to support my girls.
Shouts out.
I had
Kana,
so
Angel.
much fun watching that show. I don't think I had smiled and laughed in so long. And just watching them have fun together, I was like, okay, I gotta like come back or something. And Bax, I heard him say, yo, this is the best show that we've done since we started on Zoom. And I was like, so, okay, I saw something, but I've seen no other open mics. If he said it's the best, it must be the best. I called Nunzio, I called Van, I called Sarah, Angel, Dom, and I was like, when are you guys going to do this next ladies night? It should be regular. You guys should have it once a month. And they were like, you do it. they had like 50 shows a week. You know, the last thing they wanted to hear is like, let's brand a new show. So at that point, the girls were like, yo, if you just do everything, we'll show up, and like, depending on who's available. And I think I did it because I wanted to do it. Like, I thought it was fun. And we just started doing that once the first Sunday of the month. And I was like, let's call it Ladies First, as a nod to the Queen Latifah track. And I started doing that. And after a couple of months, they asked me if I would just start booking all the shows, all the open mics, and helping with that. So I did that. And then as things kind of got tighter within, you know, the dub, I don't know what to call it, like the people that make all these things happen.
That's a great question. What do you
know,
call
like
the dub people?
Yeah,
You
Illuminati.
guys sound like conspiracy theorists right now. You know,
Well, it's like, is it a council? Are they a management team?
No council.
Are they just like a collective?
Yeah,
I always feel
but like,
I don't know
what's
what
the
to call them.
tier is? The people who go to that
you
meeting.
Look at it like
Yeah,
that.
so
It's just
I
like
became one of
it's
those
just like a
people.
couple people. We know them. We know all of the people.
Yeah, I
shit.
know.
Like,
I know them.
it's not
but,
even like it's like some
but what's
secret
their
society.
like? But what's the group called? I get it. I get it.
You know, it's just like all of a sudden I'm at these Monday meetings.
The foundation, we should call them. You know what I mean? Because that's what it is, pretty much.
And it just turned into me. You know, when I was asked to do that, I wanted to do more. I wanted to do more than just put bodies on a screen, and that's booking. I really wanted to help create a curation and programming that I thought would benefit everyone. And that's what we started doing. And, you know, we launched the residency last month, and it's the first time that EO Dub has had residents, and it's been successful. And I love the artists that we chose.
I'm not even gonna lie. I have no idea what you're talking about with the residency.
Okay, so the residency is a quarter-long programming schedule. So we used to have the open mic, and you know, since Frio Dub started, I realized that people were pulling up to Frio Dub regularly. The hosting was great with Sosa's beats. Things were phenomenal, but I didn't see the same interaction and engagement on Sunday nights for the open mic. And I just didn't think that it translated from the live space into a virtual space. So
yeah, it's super weird to perform your songs on a Zoom. Freestyling on a Zoom's easy, but your songs on a Zoom's kind of a weird vibe.
You know, especially
weird
for an open mic. Like, I think it worked when we were all in lockdown and you're like, I can't do anything.
Yeah. When you're like, I need this.
No,
like,
but even then, like with Zoom, you would have like latency issues. I remember the last time I did it with the dub, like, yo, it fucked me up. My performance was whack because like the beat fucked me up, and it was like everything was off, and it's like there's never a solution.
That with sound checks and stuff, but you can't sound check a bunch of open micers is the point.
Right.
So we came up as a team with this idea and plan to have these residents. And basically what I had thought of is that one Sunday I had booked this young artist, Lil Boo. And when I introduced Kendra to her, Kendra asked me real quick, she was like, how old is she? I was like, 22. And she was like, wow, this is she's part of the third generation of EO Dub now. And that really stuck in my head. I was like, holy shit. We are about
how many years is it?
21. So this is the first year of our third generation of reach. So what are we gonna do now? So I started thinking, okay, we're multi-generational, we're international. How do we, you know, expand on that? And then when the whole Lupe and Royce thing happened and Osiris put out his song, shortly thereafter, Intel from Second Generation Woo chimed in and did a song called Underdog. And then I was like, oh, guess who else is intergenerational and international? Wu-Tang. I was like, I got to get Wu-Tang down with the dub. And I hit up Intel, and he and I started talking. And at that point, I really didn't know what was going to come of that. But slowly, I realized that to make the Sunday night show good, we had to have sound checks. And this was already figured out before, like, this wasn't my idea. C-Dub, the other folks, after months and months, had realized that there's just certain due diligence that had to be done in order to ensure a clear show, or as clear as possible, like you mentioned, no latencies and, the details that are required for a pleasurable performance. So I figured it would be dope to have residents to come and bring their friends on Sunday. So basically we give them a platform and a slot and the promo and the support that they need. You take that time and share it with your collaborators and your friends and the people that you think are super dope, because every single one of us has our homeboy that has 30,000 followers. That's good, that's dope. But we also have our friend that has 800 followers, but is making fire music and nobody knows.
Facts.
So if I'm dope enough to be engaged by EO Dub and say, you're going to be one of my first residents, now I'm going to bring my homeboy that nobody's heard, but everybody in my neighborhood knows about. He works his ass off. He's dope. Let me share this with them. So that's how that happened. It started off with Intel. That's like really where that whole thought process came from, is to really try to emphasize End of the Week as a multi-generational and international organization, and to maximize, the partnerships and the help that, we were engaging with these artists. So, so far, I feel like it's been really exciting to watch off. And I suggest you watch, Holden. It's archived on the YouTube channel.
I'm definitely going to look into that.
Yeah, we have Nejma Nefertiti, Intel from Second Generation Wu, and Double AB, who's an amazing MC who toured with Cannibal Ox for years. He's also, he has a graphic novel. He conceptualized this idea of lyric vision. So he made a graphic novel, and all the words, like the story, are verbatim a song. So each song is a graphic novel in itself, and the graphic novel comes with a QR code on the back. So you can listen.
Too hot.
Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And that makes it a sale, no? Woof. That's hot. That's hot.
Yeah. So that brings us to 8/39, 2022, March 30th. That's what's happening now.
That's really cool. So you're basically one of those people that looks at a situation and goes, here's what we can do better. And you're one of those people that's like right usually when you say that. Because sometimes people say that.
I can't be like, yes, but
I'm just, listen, I'll listen to you go on about it. Like, you just flexed pretty heavy on good idea after good idea after good idea and big advice for a significant amount of time, right? I think, yeah, that's fair. You can,
yeah,
that's what you do. I mean, that's a role. Like, I know it sounds weird, but like, it is a role.
it is.
Like somebody got hired in my company, my day job shit. And honestly, they recognized that she could play a role like that. She could look at what's happening here and start connecting some dots that the rest of us can't see, because, you can't see the forest through the trees and all that. And somebody got to go see the forest.
I'll say this, that I have that ability. I'll accept that, but it wouldn't have been possible. And I don't think I would have uttered a word if I wasn't sure that the team that we have could execute it. Like, I just had when I had to present to the board, my proposal for a 3-month curated reprogramming of, and I didn't have a plan B. You know what I mean? Like there was there was no rain date, there was no other idea. And I didn't realize until I closed my computer, finished, and I was like, this is a dope idea. They should do it. I had confidence, but I was like, but what if they don't? Like, what are we going to do in 4 weeks after this break, after the MC Challenge finals? Like, we're not going to keep doing open mics that are like, so it has to do with, again, who you surround yourself with, the team that you have, and your dreams are only as powerful as the people around you that will support you and add life to it. I couldn't have done that by myself.
Yeah, it's a big facts. I
We
think
can't
Big
do
Ox
nothing by
wants us
ourselves.
to mention Idea Factory VVS.
Idea Factory. So, I think it was 2016 when I was in Miami, and I would call Vice and Ox, and they'd be, all of a sudden Vice would be like, I'm at the Idea Factory. And I was like, the what? And I knew where it was because, Vice and Ox were together every day. And then before I know it, they had their public access show and everything that's happening now with Idea Factory and focused on Pennywise is also an extension of that. It's like this diversity. Ox, should Ox come in here and help me with this? I can't read. And
Ox, you can, if you want, you can just unmute and say what you got to say.
Come
He said
on,
no.
help
He
me.
doesn't want to get on. He
Well,
doesn't want to get on cam.
am I supposed to tell them about diversity? What's coming up?
Same idea, like me and Vice started doing diversity, but where did we get that idea from? You know what I mean? Like Shelly, I know you mentioned the shows you used to do with Damien before. She did it under diversity, so we just carried it on from there. It was
Diversity started. It was an event in 2003 that my company Milk and Honey and EO Dub collaborated on, and it was called Diversity. And I remember when my partner came in with like 5,000 flyers to this. I still have a picture, and I was like, Diversity, I hate that name. I hated it. And for some reason, the minute that Ox and Vice started doing it, I was like, that fucking shit is so dope. That is brilliant. So yeah, I mean, that was another connection. It's funny. Ox does a lot of great things, and I support all of them.
It's not actually
Ox
that
a cool
like
guy.
uncommon and crazy, right? Because literally me and Holden were talking about that before the show as well. I was telling him that like when people know you, they're just more endeared to you. So like you kind of like some shit that you don't like from somebody else, you get it from somebody that you like, and you're like, you know what? Now I love this thing. Oh my God, what do you know? I really wouldn't have loved this thing if I didn't know this person though. Who knows? You know what I mean? But that's how it is,
Yeah. So diversity should be coming back shortly. We'll see if there's any good surprises.
That's a live show event. That's a collaboration between you and End of the Week.
No, that was. Now it's
Okay.
a public access show that Vice and Ox co-hosted.
Oh, right. Okay. I know that Big Ox probably told me about that, but Big Ox is the kind of guy that says a lot of things with a lot of, like, everything's got a highlighter and a bullet point on it, right? So sometimes it's a little hard to remember all of the little ones that are highlighted and bullet pointed.
Yeah.
Right.
But all of it is worth paying attention to.
Facts.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I got stuck with the banker part. That was my favorite part of the Big Ox interview, is how he's a good banker and that like
God.
he fought for like the good nobleness of it. I think that is the thing that stuck with me the most. Not anything else. It was that. I was like, damn, there's good bankers. And
Well,
Big
I'll
Ox
tell
is a
you
good
something
banker.
else that you might be surprised about. Ox and I were born 20 minutes apart. Same day, same year.
What?
Was it in the same hospital?
Different countries.
Oh, right. That's wild.
It's bananas, it's like one of those
It's crazy.
things that when we ran into each other after those couple of years of not working together, he was like, I asked him when his birthday was. He said March 8th, 79. And I was like, wait, that's my birthday. And I was like, let me see your ID. Very typical me. Let me see your ID. We switch IDs and he looks down. He was like, oh my God, you're that bitch. And I was like, what? And he remembered working with me years back and hating me. He did not like me. And I can't imagine why. But after the fact, it's like I said, from the next day on, me, him, and Vice were like this. And I can't imagine my life without him in it. He's just one of those people. And it's like 20 minutes apart, God, like, really? You really did that? He's the one. My nickname is Shelly because his sister's name is Michelle. So his family calls his sister Shelly. I have been running from the nickname Shelly since I was a child. My family calls me Mimi or Mishi. So one day the three of us are hanging out and he starts calling me Shelly. And I was like, chill, chill, chill. I hate that. And Vice turns around and goes, no, now you're Shelly. And I was like, okay, cool. Like it was just one of those things. And now the only people that call me Shelly are family from the dub. Like nobody from anywhere else calls me that. We have the same favorite color. I mean, I could think something and be like, something's wrong with Ox, and I'll call him, and sure enough, like we just have that. It's one of those bananas things that always, again, it's like all this magic that comes through EO Dub.
Yeah, EO Dub's a pretty magical place, but Big Ox is a magical person too. I respect that.
He's a motherfucking unicorn.
Yeah.
I feel like that needs a heavy pause, actually. Ox is a motherfucking unicorn, bitches. You heard me? So we're up to date, I guess. Then you're like, this is
unless we go into the future.
Now moving forward.
we could like usually you do go a little bit into the future because that's how like a good ending point is the what's next.
Right now I am very focused on EO Dub. Like that is definitely the center of my life professionally at this point. I'm an interpreter and as a freelancer, and I pay my bills that way, and I love helping people, especially in the Latino community, and making sure they're advocated for at different appointments, whether they're medical or legal. But I don't remember a time, probably since I was just starting, that I felt so invigorated and motivated and inspired by the culture and artists and working collaboratively. I mean, I've been flying solo for so long, and to be part of a team where everybody has this goal and really cares about people, not just the music, is ideal. I've walked away from several opportunities where I could have made money, but I was just like, yo, I don't believe in what this artist is saying. Like, I can't even imagine myself like hanging out with those people. Like, I can't do it. But it's the total opposite here at EO Dub. Like, I just want the best for not only them, but everyone that we could touch. I genuinely believe that, this movement is critical and important to reaching as many humans as possible.
Right.
And I'm having fun. I'm having so much fun.
That is important. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're having fun, you're going to be more motivated. And if you're more motivated, you're going to try harder. And I can tell you that the times I've been at the same day job company for a very long time. And anytime I've had fun, I did my job way better than the times when I don't have fun.
Oh, you don't want to be around me if I'm not having fun. Like, I'm the worst. It's almost as bad as when I'm hungry, you know? It's just like, stay away from me.
I relate to that. No, that's your energy is great though. Honestly, this is like a super cool conversation. I mean, sometimes it's just good to talk to people who know how to get shit done because like artists are not always good at getting shit done. We usually require people around us who are good at getting shit done, at the very least, to remind us that we have to get shit done, right? Because like otherwise, we could get caught up in limbos of lethargy and whatnot. So just hearing the way like just hearing your journey and like all the cool things you get to do and the parties, like you're a professional partier in a sense, right? Like that's also wildly interesting. I mean, if you can go to a party and flip it, it's a job. It made me realize I have to go to all these shows, right? And now I'm in my 30s, so it's not like the first thought in my mind sometimes on a Saturday night is I want to go to the other side of the city to go like to a bar. But if you can flip it, all of a sudden you're like, yo, wait a second. This could be a job. That's a dope job though. It's like a weird like pastime, maybe, debating on who you are, but like make that a career and you can justify that, that's extra cool, like, and you basically did that with everything. That's fire.
You gotta find, again, it's like you gotta find opportunities in the places that you want to be in. If I wanted to be a lawyer, I would be right now. That's not what I want. I don't want monotony. I don't want routine. Like, I'm a creative person. I had to come to facts with the fact that I am not a rapper, nor will I ever be. I am an avid rap hobbyist, but my superpowers are in another place, which is to help MCs and to help DJs and to help producers and organization like EOW to continue on and do dope shit.
Yeah, and the world needs more people like Miss B. That's all I'm gonna say. Too many people trying to be rappers. Some people gotta wanna be the Miss B. That's why it's maybe like we need these stories of event curators so that the people can see how lit it is to be an event curator, and then more people that with good ideas and like different visions show up. Because like, like I never heard a young person that I've met, not to say they don't exist, be like, I want to go right into event planning. Like there are, and I have met them, but they're like really so few and far between, right? Like, and if they do, it's usually not like I'm gonna go throw indie underground shit. However, the Montreal rave scene did do that, and now they're dominating the big rave scene. So it's like there is people who do it. It's just not like talked about enough, right? And it's such a different journey because you don't end up being the rapper, you just end up being the person who's taking notes, which is fucking like the most valuable person probably in that whole situation a lot of the time. So it's a blessing to talk to you for, and to hear your perspectives and all that.
Likewise, I appreciate your interest and the questions. And I don't think I've talked about myself for 2 hours straight ever. This is my second interview I've ever done. So I hope I did well.
That was wonderful. It was super wonderful. I want to just thank all the people that are watching it in the live places that are with us still, the ones that were there before, because without the live people, it's less of a show. When you see some comments coming, you're like, yeah, people. And then I also want to thank the people watching this in the future, because you're also important, but it's also more fun Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST to come through on the live is all I'm saying. And big shout out to End of the Week, because like we're on the platform. This is them that is the hosting of them. And we wouldn't be here without them and their giant global reach of interesting people in all kinds of countries. And I'm certain we'll find out even more as time goes on, but we just do a lot of cool stuff everywhere that they are. And so we've only, tapped into parts of it. So shout out End of the Week, and y'all can go follow them.
We're only at episode 50.
Only. And you can follow them. Its easiest place is the website, eodubeodub.com. Just go there, and that's the easiest place to find them and all their stuff. Otherwise, yeah, it was a real pleasure to be here with all the people in the world. And I don't have much more to say. So live long and prosper, everybody.
Peace.
Peace, yo. So we're out
Boom.
on Hoho's side. Danny already cut us on the dub side. We're good. Solid.
Yeah, we good.
Yo,
That was fun.
fucking